On our WRCO Morning Show, Amy Lenz is here. She's one of the ambassadors, one of the 4 ambassadors for this year's Greater Richland Area Cancer Elimination. Well, Amy, we say good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning. It's great to be here, Phil. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for taking the step forward and becoming an ambassador for Grace. Let's tell your story a little bit. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Texas, on the Texas Gulf Coast, about an hour south of Houston, in a rural area. Not as, hilly as here, not as cold as here, but definitely a rural area. And then I moved, after college, I moved up to Houston. And I lived there for about 15 years. And then I moved here 20 years ago now, next month. Next month is our 20th wedding anniversary. So for those people who know my husband, Al Lenz, he's involved in a lot of things here in the community, or they probably knew my mother-in-law, Mary Lenz, if they don't know Al, because she was a longtime Ithaca teacher. I met Al online before that was a thing, really, in 2003, if you can believe it. And we got married in 2005, and I've been here ever since.
Yeah, that's exciting. It doesn't seem like it's been that long, does it?
No, time flies really fast. So I've been here 20 years, and I no longer wear my giant full-length down coat to Walmart. My first winter here, I did that. People would just stop and laugh in the store because it was ridiculous. But I was so cold the whole first year I lived here.
And that was the summertime, right?
I ordered that coat from Land's End as soon as October arrived.
Yeah. So you had to make the transition, that's for sure. And you became the wife of a farmer too.
Yes. Alan was still doing his dairy farming then, and then moved into beef around 10 years ago, 12 years ago. And then eventually, now he's retired from the farming, but transitioning to being a wife on a farm. And I worked from home now for 20 years. I still work for my same company that I worked for in Houston. And so that was an adventure. It was all new, and that was a rare thing back then. But now pretty much everybody works from home in my company. And so living on the farm for 20 years has been quite an adventure.
So tell us a little about the start of your cancer journey. How long ago was that, Amy?
2 years ago, actually, almost exactly 2 years ago, 2 years ago in the beginning of August. And my journey started with 4 really terrifying words, which are, I felt a lump. Oh. So I felt a lump. And actually, if you kind of back up a little bit, my journey actually starts a little bit earlier than that with COVID, because I had a mammogram scheduled when the world shut down, and so did, those kinds of services. And then 3 years went by, and I had never rescheduled. Life gets busy. I came down with COVID. There was a lot of things involved in that. But basically, a lot of people got behind on those things, scans and whatnot. And I want to say early detection is super important, and it definitely saves lives. But detection is better than late detection is better than no detection. And I should have been getting, caught up on those things, and I didn't. And that's life. And other people may have that same story. There shouldn't be guilt or embarrassment about that. That's just how it happened for me. And so I felt a lump, and I immediately panicked, of course. And it was on a weekend, so I couldn't really do anything about it. But then when Monday came, I immediately got in touch with my doctor, who at the time was Dr. Baylink. A lot of people know her, and she's since retired. And she took it super seriously right from the beginning, got me in immediately. In fact, worked me into the schedule to get me in immediately and do that exam so that she could make a referral. And I will say that from the beginning, I knew this was cancer. I just knew it because it was hard, like a little marble, and it felt very different from anything else, in all my years of doing self-exams, as we're taught to do. And later my surgeon told me the smallest lump you can probably feel in a breast anyway is 2 centimeters. And that's quite large for a tumor. And so my tumor was over 2 centimeters because I could feel it. And so immediately got into scans and then biopsies and then a consultation with the surgeon. And the next thing you know, I have the diagnosis confirmed, and we do a lumpectomy. So that was 4 or 6 weeks, really, from the time that I felt the lump to I'm having a consultation for surgery, and then 2 weeks after that, I'm having surgery. It moves really fast. But after the surgery, then I was able to do some other testing with my doctor. We confirmed through the pathology, they take the tumor and they, examine it to tell you what kind of cancer you have. I didn't really know this about breast cancer, but there are 17 kinds of breast cancer. There's not one kind. There's different hormone positive, hormone negative, HER2 positive, HER2 negative. There's just all these combinations of things that are a factor that affect the diagnosis and the treatment and the prognosis of your breast cancer. There are different gene expressions, I guess, that can come into play. I didn't have any gene mutations, so I got lucky. My cancer was just a luck of the draw, random. It wasn't a genetic component. And so then that formed my treatment plan from there. So the surgery happened. They took out lymph nodes, which were negative. My final diagnosis was stage 1, which is a great prognosis. And then I was diagnosed with hormone receptor positive breast cancer. So then that led to meetings with some new doctors, a hormone therapy doctor, an endocrine oncologist, and a radiation oncologist. And so we made my treatment plan. I did not need chemo, which I'm glad. I did not need chemotherapy because of the characteristics of my tumor. So they did some testing, and I have a really low score on that, so that sort of informs how they treat it. And so then from there, I did radiation in Madison at UW, and now I see my endocrine doctor on a regular basis, and I'm on hormone therapy for 5 years, and I'm considered in, no evidence of disease. The margins were clear on my tumor. There was no evidence of cancer in my lymph nodes. So for now, we assume I don't have any. I could have it in my body and it could be dormant. So there's always a fear of recurrence. But for now, I'm no evidence of disease. I'm moving on with my life. And then I'm finding out that once you finish your treatment, cancer is not over. It's not done with you. And you have other things you have to deal with. And we can talk about that if you'd like.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
So they think you caught it early then, it sounds like.
Yes, I did catch it early. And my particular type of breast cancer was very slow growing. I call it the turtle of breast cancers. Some other types of breast cancer are much more aggressive. The tumors grow really fast. And my doctor, she can't really tell how long has that been there, but based on the size of the tumor, maybe it would have been caught if I had done my mammogram on time and the world hadn't happened, but I didn't, and that's, you deal with the results. So I got lucky. I got lucky that it wasn't an aggressive tumor. I got lucky that it was a slower growing type of cancer. I got lucky that it hadn't spread to my lymph nodes. And so, I should buy lottery tickets at this point.
How did life change for you then, Amy?
Well, it's funny because one of the reasons I decided to be an ambassador is that everybody deals with this differently. And some people want to be really open. I've had other friends with breast cancer, and that's in my age group. I'm in the 50s and the 60s. A lot of women get the kind of breast cancer I had. A lot of younger women get this more aggressive kind of breast cancer. So the particular age group I'm in, I knew some other women who had been going through this, and some were very open on social media. Some had set up like a private group, but then invited all their friends, into a private social media group. I did none of that. I didn't tell anybody. I told Alan, of course, and like 2 good friends, and that was it. I didn't tell anybody else, and I just went on my business. I only missed 2 days of work throughout this. My biopsy day and my surgery day, and I was back at work because I work from home the next day. I didn't take time off work, and then radiation, I got radiation treatments at like the latest possible appointment. So I'd leave home at 3, drive to Madison, get my treatment, be back home by like 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and do that for my radiation treatment. And that was what worked for me. But that, doesn't work for everybody. Some people need that care and support. I didn't want to worry my family, which are all like 2,000 miles away from me and can't really be here and help me. A lot of my friends live far away. And so I just made the decision that until I knew more, because I was convinced I was going to die, in my head, I'm like, all of this is happening. I didn't want to tell people until I knew the diagnosis and the prognosis. And so I managed it in the way that I felt was right for me. But that's not right for everybody. And I guess I want people to know there's no one right way to have cancer, and there's no one right way to be a friend of someone who has cancer. And so you just figure that out as you go along. as I got more into the journey, and those of you who know Alan and know my mother-in-law, you know, he is a real saint in my book, because I was dealing with this diagnosis and treatment, and he was dealing with a wife with a diagnosis and treatment, and a mother who was in the last year of her life, and he was her full-time caregiver. And so we were managing a lot of stuff, and you know, you just make it work. Like any other life thing, you figure out how to go along. And then I figured out I needed help, professional help. So last fall, I was really dealing with a lot of anxiety and stress and depression over this fear of recurrence, irrational fear of, you know, this is never going to be over, started to take hold of me. And that's when I sought out mental health from UW. They have a staff of oncologists, therapy professionals who deal specifically with oncology. So they have like oncology therapists that will work with cancer patients specifically, no matter what stage you're in, whether you're in treatment or you're done. And I spent time with them, sort of getting my act together and learning strategies to cope with this fact that this is always here hanging over my head. It could be 5 years, 10 years, never. I mean, who knows, right? And how to deal with that in your life was the biggest challenge I've ever had to face, really. And I didn't know how to deal with it and how to cope with it. And so I did get professional help. And I'm also here to say that's okay too. There's a lot of stigma around getting mental health care. And it was so vital to my recovery, because I'm still recovering. Since my cancer diagnosis and my treatment has been over, and I was stage 1, like best case, right? I didn't have to even have chemo. And I thought, wow, I'm so lucky. I'm not going to have all these side effects. Wrong. So I developed lymphedema. I wear this lovely little compression sleeve now, and that's because when they take out your lymph nodes to test them, those lymph nodes are now gone. There's tissue that's damaged around where they had to extract those lymph nodes, and your lymph fluid doesn't flow properly through your body anymore. And for a fair percentage of breast cancer patients, they end up with the lymphedema, edema, swelling in the arm, and just the lymph fluid doesn't flow properly anymore. So there's exercises you have to do. There's garments you can wear to keep it under control and keep it from becoming unmanageable. So that's another new normal. And then just when I thought I was, had that under control, I started developing a lot of back pain, which also triggered the mental thoughts of like, oh gosh, the cancer's back, right? Anything, like you stub your toe and you think now you've got cancer in your toe. It's just, that's how your brain starts to react to these things. So when I went to my new doctor, because Dr. Bailey had retired, she was very good with me, and she referred me to physical therapy. And so what we've kind of come up with, also talking to my oncology doctors, is the radiation treatment has caused fibrosis in my chest wall and some in under my arm and in my back. And so all the muscles are connected together. And so I don't have pain where the radiation was, but I've got a lot of restrictions now in my back. So I spend a lot of time in local physical therapy, and that's probably going to be my new normal too. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know what's next, right? Hormone therapy is not a barrel of monkeys either. It has a lot of side effects. And so you just take everything one day at a time. You take the next thing as it comes. You handle that. Then there's another thing. And I think that's the way it's going to be. It's like a chronic illness now for me in some senses, even though I'm done with treatment. And Grace helped me a lot. I had not been involved with Grace ever. I mean, I bought things and auction items and, brought stand stuff, but I'd never been involved in a team or gone to any Grace events. And so last year, I went to the Survivors Dinner, which is on the 6th this year, my 20th wedding anniversary. And then I went to the walk on that Friday, and I did a luminary. And again, nobody around here knew I had cancer, but it was the best experience ever, and it helped me so much mentally to deal with it, to see all the other survivors, to see all the people in this community who really care. That luminary walk was amazing, and that's why I've decided to get more involved, in Grace. And then when I was asked to be an ambassador, I thought, this is all happening for a reason, and I just need to embrace it and let my story out and hopefully help other people, and not be in that place where I was, where I just wanted to keep it to myself for like the first year after I had cancer. And now here I am 2 years on, and doing the ambassador is great. I did the parade in June, on the rodeo parade, and worked with Grace on that. And now I'm just here to say Grace is here to help, and not just if you need money, because I was lucky I had good insurance. I still have a lot I'm paying out of pocket with massage therapy. We were talking about that with your hip, getting all of these sorts of things that are going to be ongoing in my life. But for those who need it, Grace is here, but you need it, and different people need it in different ways. And I just needed a place that I felt I belonged. And Grace was that place last year at that walk. And I'm getting a little emotional about it, actually, but I didn't think I was going to react that way. And I just kind of went to see I'll go, and see what it's about. And there was a lot of internal healing that happened for me. And so that's why I wanted to share my story.
Yeah, that's great that you shared that. I think the aspect that we've not really explored a lot over the years is the mental health aspect, and I appreciate you being transparent about that, because I think that's pretty important as well. I think we all tend to be hypochondriacs a little bit, Amy.
Right.
But I think, as you mentioned, it really amplifies when you get the cancer diagnosis, doesn't it? It
does, because you can't trust your own body. You can't trust yourself. It sort of deconstructs you as a person and makes you look at yourself and like, how can I trust my body anymore? How can I trust my own instincts anymore? I should have known, I should have done, you start to go through all the things. I should have been more, aggressive at rescheduling that mammogram that got canceled. Well, I mean, plenty of people had those sort of things happen. You don't get the colonoscopy when you should start, or you don't do this or that. And again, you can't think like that. You just have to move forward. And Alan was big in helping me work through that, because there is a lot of guilt. I should have known I had a tumor in my body. How would you know? Most people don't have any symptoms. Some people obviously have symptoms with the type of cancer they have, but a lot of people don't. And with breast cancer, you generally don't, until it's pretty far advanced. The kinds of things they tell you to look for, it's pretty far advanced when you can see those things, changes in the skin, or feeling the lump, like my doctor told me, this had to be pretty big before you could feel it. And so this mental health piece of not being able to trust your judgment, trust your body, trust the future, trust God. I mean, you talk about, everybody's going to die someday, but all of a sudden I was like, I might die today. And I didn't like that feeling. And so just, there's a lot of struggle that goes on with any, serious health diagnosis, but particularly cancer. You just feel so out of control. There's no control. You have no control. Your doctors are, you're on this, I kind of, actually, I wrote my article for the Observer, and as I was thinking about it, this time last year, I was at Mount Olympus with my nieces and nephews, and I was on the lazy river, which if you've ever been to Mount Olympus, it's not lazy. It sucks you in, right? It's got this really strong current in that particular lazy river, and that's what cancer feels like. Like, you're just holding on to that inner tube and trying to keep your head from, going under the water and banging off the walls, and it's just pulling you around and around in this circle, and you're like, I want off. Oh, I passed the exit again. I want off. And that is what this cancer journey felt like to me. I was not in control. And, for most people, that you want to be in control of your life. And I struggled so hard with that. And so I want people to know, if you're struggling, there are resources that can help. And there's local resources. My primary care doctor had a referral for me locally. I ended up exploring the UW referral because it was specific to oncology, patients that they deal with specifically with cancer. And I did it virtually. So we had Zoom therapy. I highly recommend it. I'd never considered therapy before. And I think a lot of people don't even know it's there. You get this huge binder. I got a binder, like a 2-inch binder when I was diagnosed. They hand it to you at the hospital, and it's all these tabs and sections. And you're so overwhelmed. I went back and looked at it a year later, and I was like, oh, they have therapy. That wasn't something I was ready to deal with when I was reading about how to care for my, surgery site and stuff like that. And so, so much information is coming at you. You can't absorb it all. And you just have to kind of keep going back to that and keep going back to your resources and asking for help, which is the hardest thing for most people to do. Nobody wants to ask for help, you know?
No, true.
So, yeah.
You mentioned faith. How much did faith come into play for you, Amy?
Well, it did. I mean, I think anybody who knows me or Al or Mary Lynn's, you're going to find us up at Keysville at St. Mary's, and faith is a big part of our life. But this really tests it in a lot of ways. And I think other people who have been through this or had a family member go through this can relate to that. It tests it in really specific ways, and you have to face your own mortality in a way that you may not be ready to. And I certainly am a believer. I'm a believer in God and in, life after death. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't want to go now, right? I've got a lot of living to do. I've got a lot of things, and it makes you think all those things, like my nieces and my nephews, they're only 10 and 12, and I want to be there for their weddings, and I want to be there, and I'm sure people who have children feel the same way. And so your whole life just gets laid out before you, and then you start to think about what's important and these big questions that, you think about them, but then you also have to do your laundry and go buy your groceries, and you go to work, and you're in your everyday stuff. And so this takes you out of all of that, and it makes you think about those big things in ways you haven't, and maybe ways you don't want to, and survey your life and what you've done, and have I lived a good life, and have I been a good person? And it all starts going through your head. And so and you get mad at God. Why me? Why do I have this thing happening? And why now? Because we have all of these other things going on. And it makes you angry. You go through all these stages of things, I guess. And then you have to come to a place where you're like, okay, that Jesus take the wheel thing is a fun song to sing, but when you really have to turn it over to him, it's a struggle. And so you have to just reorient yourself and your priorities. And that was hard for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure. When you go through any big thing like this, any health thing, though, I think it makes you more grateful when you look in the rearview mirror, though, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I'm prioritizing things differently now. And Alan and I just went to a show in Madison. We saw Wicked last night. And I'm like, well, I want to see Wicked. I'm going to spend that $50 on that ticket, and I'm going to go see Wicked, or I'm going to take that vacation that, I'm always too busy to take, or I'm going to have these different relationships with my family and my friends, make a better effort, or just, get more involved in things, or learn that new hobby thing I always wanted to do that I never had time to do, because the time is now. Don't put that stuff off. Don't put off your relationships and your friendships. And again, I have a great prognosis. I hopefully will live many more years, 30, 50, whatever, maybe not 50, because I'm already 58.
Never know.
I'm already 58.
A lot of advances in medicine,
I know,
so you never know.
But I hope I get at least, another 30, and or live to, have the kind of life that my mother-in-law had, at 95. And
she had me in school, and she still lived that long. So.
I know, right? And she talked about you a lot. She loved all of her students, and she was just such a joy. And I want to be that person in my old age, like still doing and caring and sharing and bringing joy. But I don't know. I could have a cancer occurrence next year. I mean, I just, I could trip and fall on the sidewalk, right? Who knows? And so you never know. And so it just makes you think about those things differently and not put off the things you want to do and the people you want to love.
So you'll be there at the Ambassadors, the Survivors Night, and then and Grace as well. And when you take that first lap at Grace, what do you think is going to be going through your head, Amy?
I think last year it was, about all the stress and anxiety. And I feel like this year it's going to be about the peace and accepting stage of, this is my life. This is my journey. It's different from other people's journeys. It's a journey I hope nobody else ever has to take. Maybe we'll get a cure someday or a vaccine to prevent it. That would be amazing. But until we do, we're all on the journey together. So let's embrace that. And I feel like embracing and accepting is and joy, finding joy. Like, that's where I am today, and that's what this year's walk will be about for me.
Well said. Very eloquent today how you've presented this, your journey and everything. And we congratulate you again on being an ambassador. Thank you for stepping forward. And I hope if somebody's listening, maybe you made a difference in their lives today.
Well, I hope so. So my message, in summary would be early detection saves lives. Any detection is better than no detection. And if you didn't detect it and you have symptoms, do not wait. Take it seriously. Go to the doctor. And if you don't get the answer from the doctor that you want, because especially with younger women, more and more breast cancer is happening with younger women. And benign lumps can be normal in younger women, but doctors still should take it seriously and do the scans. And if you have a doctor, because I've talked to women whose doctors didn't take it seriously until they were stage 3, stage 4 even. They weren't properly diagnosed. So you have to be an advocate for yourself. And if you don't like the answer from one doctor, go find another one. I think we have excellent medical staff, and everybody along my journey took me seriously. But if someone doesn't, you're the only one who can advocate for you. So don't take no for an answer until you get that scan or you get that test. And if nothing else, for your own peace of mind, because the not knowing is just as bad as the knowing.
Yeah. Thanks for coming in today, Amy. It's been a pleasure. We'll see you at Grace.
Thank you.
Amy Lynn's joining us on WRCO's Morning Show.